debate surrounding foreign aid.
Secretary of State!
What I'd say to the honourable gentleman is at a time when there is great need in the world and when we've seen enormous generosity from UK taxpayers for the East Africa Deck appeal, we have seen the country come together, but also the international community come together to give support and aid to the people that need it the most. That is something we are proud of, and absolutely, we stand tall in the world when we stand up for our obligations to the poorest in the world, and that's effectively what we are doing.
Order. Questions to the Prime Minister. Danny Kinahan.
Question number 1.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to update the House on last week's terrorist attack. Since my statement on Thursday, the names of those who have died have been released. They were Aisha Fraid, Kurt Cochrane, Leslie Rhodes, and of course PC Keith Palmer. I am sure members across the House will join me in offering our deepest condolences to their friends and families. The police and security services investigation continues, and 2 people have now been arrested and remain in custody. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Danny Kinahan.
Thank you very much. May I echo her sentiments and congratulate her also on all the good work that was done last week and since last week. But may I also congratulate the Prime Minister and the Government on today triggering Article 50. I know this is a momentous action for the whole of the United Kingdom, and while I, like herself, campaign to stay in, we recognise that the people have spoken, and we offer the Ulster Unionist Party full support in ensuring that the negotiations deliver the best for the whole of the United Kingdom, and particularly for Northern Ireland. But could I ask the Prime Minister to confirm that in the extremely improbable event that a border poll should take place regarding the future of Northern Ireland within the United Kingdom during her premiership, that a government will fully support any official Remain campaign, just as the government have done both in regard of the EU and indeed Scotland.
Honourable gentleman. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the honourable gentleman is absolutely right. Today, of course, we do give effect to the democratic decision of the people of the United Kingdom who voted for us to leave the European Union. It was a call to make the United Kingdom a country that works for everyone, not just the privileged few. We are, of course, within that fully committed to ensuring that the unique interests of Northern Ireland are protected and advanced as we establish our negotiating position. And our position has always been clear that we strongly support the Belfast Agreement, including the principle of consent that Northern Ireland's constitutional position is a matter for the people of Northern Ireland to determine. But as our manifesto made clear, we have a preference that Northern Ireland should remain part of the United Kingdom. And we will never be neutral in expressing our support for that. And that's because I believe fundamentally in the strength of our union.
Ranald J. Wardener.
Mr. Speaker, pupils and parents deserve good schools and real choice in education, including schools that are focused unashamedly on academic rigour. Can my right honourable friend tell us when this government will open applications for the new wave of free schools? And can she also confirm that they will be genuinely free to be run as they wish, serving the local community and creating schools that work for everyone?
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right. I believe that schools should be free to be run as best suits them. And we're putting autonomy and freedom in the hands of strong leaders and outstanding teachers so they can deliver an excellent education. And we want to get out of the way of outstanding education providers so they can set up the types of schools that parents want. That's why we've set out our new plans to remove the ban on new grammar schools and the restrictions on new faith schools. But it is a complex area. We do expect to announce the detail of the next wave of free school applications following the publication of our school's white paper.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to begin by paying tribute to the emergency services, as the Prime Minister did, across the country, especially all those that responded to the Westminster attack last Wednesday and to those that turned out to help the victims of the New Ferry explosion last Saturday. Our thoughts remain with the injured and those who've lost loved ones, and we especially thank the police for their ongoing investigations. Could the Prime Minister assure us that the police will be given all the necessary support and resources to take them through this very difficult period in investigating what happened last Wednesday?
Prime Minister.
I join the Right Honourable Gentleman in praising the work of our emergency services, who, as he has pointed out, have to deal with a wide range of incidents that take place. Our focus in this House has been most recently on the attack that took place last Wednesday. We should never forget, day in and day out, our emergency services are working on our behalf and often putting themselves in danger as a result of the work that we do. I can assure him I have, of course, been keeping in touch, as has my Right Honourable friend, the Home Secretary, with both the security services and the Metropolitan Police on the investigation that is taking place into the attack last week, and I'm looking forward to security arrangements, and I can assure him that they have the resources that they need to carry out their vital work.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, we all pay tribute to the police for the work they do, but there are some problems that between 2015 and 2018, there'll be a real terms cut in central government funding to police forces of 330 million. Can the Prime Minister assure the House the police all over the country have the necessary resources to do the job?
Prime Minister.
I would remind the Right Honourable Gentleman that what we've done in the CSR is actually protected that police budget. And of course, the former Shadow Home Secretary, his own colleague, the Right Honourable Member for Lee, prior to the 2015 Labour Party conference, said savings can be found. The police say 5 to 10% over the Parliament is just about doable. Yeah. We didn't accept that. We've actually protected the police budget. I've been speaking, as my Right Honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has, to police forces, and they are very clear that the work that they are doing has the resources that they need.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, the Police Federation survey recently undertaken reveals that 55% of serving police officers say their morale is low due to the way in which their funding has been treated. Frontline policing is vital in tackling crime and terrorism. Since 2010, however, there are 20,000 fewer police officers, 12,000 less on the front line. So I ask the Prime Minister again, will she think again about the cuts to policing and guarantee policing on the front line will be protected so every community can be assured it's got the police officers it needs in their community?
Prime Minister.
Said to the Right Honourable Gentleman, we have protected those police budgets, including, of course, the precept that they're able to raise locally. But let's just think about what has happened since 2010. Since 2010, we have seen crimes that are traditionally measured by the Independent Crime Survey falling by a third to a record low. Now, that is the work of hard-working police officers up and down this country. They have been backed by this government. Yes, we've made them more accountable through the directly elected police and crime commissioners. Yes, there has been reform of policing, including reform of the Police Federation, which was very necessary. But we have ensured that the police have the resources to do their job, and we see crime at a record low.
Victoria Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Royal Air Force is preparing to fly Typhoons from RAF Coningsby in my constituency to Romania to support our NATO allies on the border with Russia. This is as President Putin is locking up his political opponents and crushing calls for democracy. Will my Right Honourable friend confirm, as we leave the EU, that the United Kingdom will continue to lead NATO in defending this vital border, and will she pay tribute to the armed forces who safeguard our democracy at home and abroad?
Prime Minister.
I'm very happy, Mr. Speaker, to join my honourable friend in paying tribute to the men and women of our armed forces. They are the best in the world, and they work tirelessly to keep us safe, and we owe them every gratitude for doing so. I can also assure her that our commitment to collective defence and security through NATO is as strong as ever. We will meet our NATO pledge to spend 2% of GDP on defence every year of this decade. and we plan to spend £178 billion on our equipment plan to 2025. And she has referred to the work that is being done by the Royal Air Force in relation to Romania. Of course, with NATO, we're deploying a battalion to Estonia and a reconnaissance squadron to Poland, and I think that shows our very clear commitment to our collective security and defence.
Angus Robertson.
We associate ourselves with the condolences of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Labour Party and the praise for the emergency and the security services in and after the wake of the appalling terrorist atrocity last week. Mr. Speaker, last year the Prime Minister promised that before she would trigger Article 50 on leaving the European Union, that she would secure a UK-wide approach and agreement with the government. Last year the Prime Minister did make that promise, and she promised there would be an agreement with the governments of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland before triggering Article 50. The Prime Minister has now triggered Article 50, and she's done so without an agreement. There is no agreement. Why has she broken her promise and broken her word?
Prime Minister.
I've been very clear throughout, and since the first visit I made as Prime Minister to Edinburgh last July, which was that we were going to work with the devolved administrations, that we would develop a UK-wide approach, but that in the negotiations it would be a UK approach that was taken into the negotiations, and it would be the United Kingdom government that took forward that position. And I would simply remind the Right Honourable Gentleman that Scotland is part of the United Kingdom.
People viewing will note that the Prime Minister did not deny that she would seek a UK-wide approach and agreement with the governments of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and there is no agreement. Mr. Speaker, the Scottish Government was elected with a higher percentage of the vote, with a bigger electoral mandate than the UK Government. Yesterday, the Scottish Parliament voted by 69 to 59 that people in Scotland should have a choice about their future. After the negotiations of the European Union are concluded, there will be a period for democratic approval of the outcome. That choice will be exercised in this Parliament, in the European Parliament, and in 27 member states of the European Union. Given that everybody else will have a choice at that time, will the people of Scotland have a choice about their...
I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman that we are taking forward the views of the United Kingdom into the negotiations with the European Union on the United Kingdom exiting the European Union. The Scottish Nationalist Party consistently talks...
Order, Miss Cherry, this is very unseemly heckling. You are a distinguished QC. You wouldn't behave like that in the Scottish courts. You'd be chucked out. Prime Minister.
Thank you. The SNP consistently talks about independence as the only subject they wish to talk about. What I say to the Right Honourable Gentleman and his colleagues is this. Now is not the time to be talking about a second independence referendum. On today of all days, we should be coming together as a united kingdom to get the best deal for Britain.
Julian Sturdy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Improving vocational and technical education is vital to closing our productivity gap. So, can the Prime Minister assure me that vocational education will enjoy equal status with academic education, so that as we leave the EU, our young people can be equipped to build the high-skilled economy of the future?
Prime Minister.
My honourable friend has raised a very important issue. It is essential for young people that we do give vocational and technical education the right esteem and the right focus, because it is essential in addressing our productivity gap. We do want to deliver a world-leading technical education system that can create genuine options for young people that are equal in esteem, 2 options for young people equal in esteem. And of course, at the budget, my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, announced a significant package of investment to implement the most ambitious post-16 reforms since the introduction of A-levels 70 years ago. We're going to be investing an extra £500 million a year in England's technical education system and introducing maintenance loans to support those studying high-level technical qualifications at prestigious institutes of technology and national colleges.
Bill Esterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Treasury Select Committee says that having to fill in a tax return every 3 months means that many smaller companies face disaster. The Federation of Small Business says that the extra annual cost is likely to be at least £2,700 a year. This is yet another burden on business from this government. She got it wrong on national insurance. Is she going to backtrack now on tax returns as well?
Prime Minister.
Perhaps the honourable gentleman should have listened to the announcement that my right honourable friend the Chancellor made in the budget, where he indicated that he would be delaying the introduction of this for the smallest businesses below the VAT threshold for a year. But I think it is right that HMRC does try to move to a greater digitisation of the way in which it operates. I think that will enable it to give a better service to those people who are completing their forms, and we should always remember that aspect of what is being proposed.
Macintosh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the additional money the government has given for adult social care, but it's important we also look at long-term solutions. As part of the long-term review, will the Prime Minister look at some of the cases in my constituency and the issues with how the system works with Northamptonshire County Council and Northampton General Hospital?
Prime Minister.
Say to my honourable friend that he's right. I'm grateful for his welcome for the extra money, the £2 billion that was announced by my right honourable friend the Chancellor out the budget that is going into social care. This shows that we have recognised the pressures and demands on social care, but it is also important that we ensure that best practice is delivered across the whole of the country. It isn't just about money. So we are trying also to find a long-term, sustainable solution which will help local authorities to learn from each other, to raise standards across the whole system, and we will bring forward proposals in a Green Paper later this year to put the state-funded system on a more secure and sustainable long-term footing.
Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Home Secretary, the Prime Minister clearly didn't protect police budgets. Last week she told me 4 times we have protected the school's budget. Does she still stand by that statement?
Prime Minister.
We have protected schools' budgets, and we're putting record funding into schools.
Corbyn.
Well, today, Mr. Speaker, the Public Accounts Committee says of the Department of Education that it does not seem to understand the pressures that schools are already under. And they went on to say that funding per pupil is reducing in real terms, and goes on to say schools' budgets will be cut by £3 billion, equivalent to 8% by 2020. Is the Public Accounts Committee wrong on this?
Prime Minister.
What we see over the course of this Parliament is £230 billion going into our schools. But what matters is the quality of education that we see in our schools. 1.8 million more children in good or outstanding schools, and a policy from this government to ensure that every child gets a good school place.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, the daily experience of many parents who have children in schools is that they get letters from the schools asking for money. One parent, Elizabeth, wrote to me to say she's received a letter from her daughter's school asking for a monthly donation to top up the reduced funds that her school is receiving. This government's cuts to schools are betraying a generation of our children. If the Prime Minister is right, then the parents are wrong, the teachers are wrong, the IFS is wrong, the National Audit Office is wrong, the Education Policy Institute is wrong, and now the Public Accounts Committee, which includes 8 Conservative members in it is also wrong. So which organisation does back the Prime Minister's view on education spending in our schools?
Prime Minister.
I have to say to the right honourable gentleman that, as I've just said to him, we said we'd protect school funding, and we have. A real terms protection for the schools budget. We said we'd protect the money following children into schools, and we have. The schools budget reaches 42 billion as pupil numbers rise in 1920. But I also have to say to him that it is about what the quality of education that the children are receiving. 1.8 million more children in good or outstanding schools than under the Labour government. But I also say this to the right honourable gentleman, because time and time again he stands up in PMQs and asks questions which would lead to more spending. Let's just look at what he's done recently. On the 11th of January, more spending. On the 8th of February, more spending. On the 22nd of February, more spending. On the 1st of March and the 8th of March, more spending. On the 15th of March and the 22nd of March, more spending. Barely a PMQs goes by that he doesn't call for more public spending. When it comes to spending money that they haven't got, Labour simply can't help themselves. It's the same old Labour, spend today and give somebody else the bill tomorrow. Well, we won't do that to the next generation.
Closed question, Mr. Bill Wiggin.
Question 11.
The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure everyone in the House will want to join me in paying tribute to the thousands who worked in munitions factories in both world wars, often in very dangerous conditions, and they produced vital equipment for the armed forces that helped us to victory. I'm sure my honourable friend will recognise that for practical reasons it's not possible to pursue individual awards, but I know that the Department for Business would be happy to work with him to look at further ways to recognise the collective effort of former munitions workers.
Bill Wiggin.
I thank my right honourable friend for that answer. These ladies found that the chemicals in the shells turned their skins yellow, and they were nicknamed Canary Girls. I know my right honourable friend is exceptionally busy at the moment, but could she find just a few moments in her diary to meet me and some of these Canary Girls to recognise their service?
Prime Minister.
I would be very happy to do that. I'd be very happy to meet some Canary Girls. As I said, they did work which was vital to the war effort. They did work which in one sense was absolutely routine, but in another sense was extremely dangerous, and I think we should recognise the efforts that they put in.
Carolyn Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will be aware that the Welsh Labour Government has established a children's funeral fund. Many independent and leading funeral providers like the Cooperative and Dignity have also indicated there will be no charges for children and young people's funerals. I know the Prime Minister is a compassionate woman, and I know she understands the importance of a children's funeral fund. Will she agree to work with me to establish this fund to bring some comfort to bereaved parents in Castawa?
Prime Minister.
First of all, pay tribute to the honourable lady who has been campaigning tirelessly on this issue, and obviously is not just a passionate campaigner, but has spoken on many occasions movingly in this House about her own experience, which she is bringing to bear on this issue. And I welcome the decision that's been taken by the Co-op to waive the funeral fees, and I recognise the actions of the Welsh Government. We do want to, we of course, financial support available. We are looking at this issue and the problems faced by parents, and we're looking at what more can be done through a cross-government piece of work, and I will ask the Minister for the Cabinet Office, who is leading on that piece of work, to meet with her and talk about the ideas.
David T.C. David.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Prime Minister will know, the budget gave an extra £200 million to the Welsh Labour Government in order to provide business rate relief. Would the Prime Minister agree with myself and the Leader of Monmouthshire Council, Peter Fox, OBE, that Welsh Labour must now commit to spending that money on supporting Welsh businesses and giving the same level of support that is being provided in England by this Conservative government?
I say to my honourable friend, he's absolutely right. As he says at the budget, my right honourable friend the Chancellor announced a £200 million boost to the Welsh Government's budgets. They will be able to use that money to support their own priorities. But the people of Wales will be able to send a very clear signal about these priorities by voting for Conservative councillors like Peter Fox on the 4th of May. And I have to say, it's the UK government actions to support ordinary working families throughout the country that will ensure Wales benefits from an economy that works for everyone.
Mr. Speaker, the Foreign Secretary during the EU referendum campaign urged people to, and I quote, take back control of huge sums of money, £350 million per week, and spend it on our priorities, such as the NHS. The Prime Minister will trigger Article 50 today. Can the Prime Minister confirm precisely when she wants to fulfil the promise made by her Cabinet colleague who is sitting on the front bench smirking at the British public?
Prime Minister!
I'm very happy.
Order. Boris is sitting perfectly comfortably and with an air of repose about the fellow to which we're accustomed. Let's hear from the Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very happy to tell the Honourable Lady that, of course, when this country leaves the European Union, we will have control of our budgets and we will decide how that money is spent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With modification, schools in my constituency welcome the national funding formula. And given the Leader of the Opposition's intervention, I hope my next part of the question doesn't land me on the naughty step. But given that Stockport schools and other F40 schools have been at the bottom of the funding pile for years and therefore have less scope for efficiencies, would my right honourable friend consider providing more immediate support to them?
Well, as my honourable friend is saying, what we're doing is aiming to end the postcode lottery of schools funding. And as I said earlier, schools funding is now at a record high. In relation to a minimum funding level, as I've said before, the DfE have heard representations on the issue on this national funding formula and will of course be considering those. It was a consultation. There have been a lot of responses to that, but it is a historic and complex reform. There's been general agreement for many years that reform is needed. We want to get this right, and that's why we're carefully considering the representations.
Alex Salmond.
After 9 months of this Prime Minister's approach to Brexit, Northern Ireland is deadlocked, the Welsh are alienated, Scotland is going for a referendum, the English are split down the middle, and Brexit MPs are walking out of Commons committees because they don't like home truths. Has the Prime Minister considered, in terms of invoking Article 50, that now is not the time?
Prime Minister.
What the UK government is doing in invoking Article 50 is putting into practice the democratic vote of the British people on the 23rd of June last year in a referendum. There was a referendum in 2014 in Scotland when the Scottish people voted to remain part of the United Kingdom. I suggest the Right Honourable Gentleman and his colleagues puts that into practice.
Matt Warman.
Mr. Speaker, 3/4 of my constituents voted to leave the European Union. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that as she triggers Article 50, it marks a watershed moment, not only for this country's control of immigration and our sovereignty, but also for listening to the views of people who were forgotten for far too long?
I absolutely agree with my honourable friend. Not only, in invoking Article 50, not only are we putting into place in practice the views of the British people as set out in that referendum on the 23rd of June last year, but crucially that was not just a vote about leaving the EU. It was a vote about changing this country for the future. And this government has a clear plan for Britain that will change this country, that will see us with a more global outlook, a stronger economy, a fairer society and a more united nation.
This is Marianne Fellows.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people expect the Prime Minister to follow her party's manifesto and to abide by a majority vote of this Parliament. So, why does she say that the First Minister of Scotland should do the opposite?
Prime Minister!
What I say is that at this point in time, as we face this historic moment of invoking Article 50 and setting in process the negotiations for the future of this country and its relationship with the European Union, now is the time for us all to pull together and not try to hang apart.
Derek Thomas!
On Friday, thousands of people will be up and down this country raising funds and awareness of brain tumour research. Many of these people will know family members who've had brain tumour research or will be suffering from them. Yet, brain tumour research only receives about 1% of all research funding for cancer, and yet it kills more. It's a bigger cancer killer of people under children, adults under 40. Will the Prime Minister join me in commending all these people raising awareness and funds, and also see what more we can do to increase funding for brain tumour research?
Prime Minister!
This is a very important area. I believe in this area also the UK does have a good record of research on brain tumours, and that is important, but he's absolutely right. The people who are raising funds for this important cause should be commended. As he says, many of them will have had personal experience in one way or another of brain tumours, and I think it is important that we recognise that there are many killers out there which don't often receive the publicity and support of others, and we should recognise their importance and commend those who are raising funds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as we enter the world of Article 50, can the Prime Minister say what she's doing to ensure national and local government prioritise the purchasing and the buying of British goods and services? Although I have to say, a record as Home Secretary on police vehicles doesn't give us much cause for optimism.
Prime Minister!
Well, we have, as a government, been encouraging the procurement of British goods and services. I would say he asked what we can do for local authorities. If people around the country want local authorities that are going to take their best interest into heart, then they should vote Conservative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I congratulate my honourable friend, the Prime Minister, on invoking Article 50 today? And does she agree with me that this is the end? This needs to be the end of the phony war, the end of posturing, as we've heard from the other benches, and focus now on the detail for every industry, every sector, and every community to get a bespoke deal that we can all get behind.
Prime Minister!
Absolutely agree with my honourable friend. Now is the time for us to come together, to be united across this House and across this country to ensure that we work for the best possible deal for the United Kingdom and the best possible future for us all.
Nigel Dodds!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has been rightly emphasising her determination to deliver for all constituent parts of the United Kingdom on this historic day. And whilst others are content to moan and whine, we want to see that delivery happen, and we're confident that she will make that happen. And in Northern Ireland, while some have walked away from their responsibilities in terms of devolution, we want to see devolution up and running, to have a functioning Northern Ireland government, and we have set no preconditions in the way of that. If others continue to stay away from devolution and walk away, will she pledge to work ever more closely with those of us in this House to defend and protect the interests of Northern Ireland?
I think we say to the right honourable gentleman, we all want to work together to ensure that we can protect the best interests of Northern Ireland. I think, as he does, as he's just said, that ensuring that we have strong devolved government in Northern Ireland is important for the future. It's important so that we can build on the significant progress that has been made in recent years for the people of Northern Ireland, and I would urge all parties to come to the talks with a view to finding a way through this so that Northern Ireland once again can be restored to devolved government.
James Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Prime Minister agree that social media companies need to take action now to remove extremist and hate material from their platforms proactively, and to foot the bill for the police who are currently doing their dirty work at the taxpayers' expense?
This whole question of working with the companies to ensure that extremist material is removed as quickly as possible is one that is not new. It has been going for a number of years. Of course, through the Counter-Terrorism Internet Referral Unit, we do have the process that enables the police to take material down. 250,000 pieces of material have been taken down since February 2010 from the Internet, and there's been a significant increase in that activity in the last couple of years or so. But I know my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, will be meeting the companies later this week to talk to them about this very important issue. We don't want to see extremist material on the Internet. What we do want to see is companies taking action to remove material that is encouraging hate and division.
Alison McGovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Late on Saturday night, a massive explosion devastated New Ferry in my constituency. We're thinking of all those who are hurt, but, Mr. Speaker, it is a miracle more people were not injured. The community now faces significant dereliction, so will the Prime Minister join with me in thanking all of those who looked after my community over the weekend and in recent days? And will she arrange for me a meeting with the Secretary of State who can discuss how the government can help us rebuild New Ferry?
Prime Minister. I'm very happy to do both of those things, tell the Honourable Lady. First of all, to commend and thank all of those who work so hard in the emergency services and others to support her local community when this devastating explosion took place. And of course that work will continue. It doesn't just happen over the weekend. There will be support, I'm sure, being given to the community into the future, and I'm very happy to ask the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government to meet with her and discuss how that community can be rebuilt and can overcome the impact of this explosion.
Order. Statement. The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, the government acts on the democratic will of the British people, and it acts too on the clear and convincing position of this House. A few minutes ago in Brussels, the United Kingdom's permanent representative to the EU handed a letter to the President of the European Council on my behalf, confirming the government's decision to invoke Article 50 of the Treaty on European Union. The Article 50 process is now underway, and in accordance with the wishes of the British people, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union. This is an historic moment from which there can be no turning back. Britain is leaving the European Union. We are going to make our own decisions and our own laws. We are going to take control of the things that matter most to us. And we are going to take this opportunity to build a stronger, fairer Britain, a country that our children and grandchildren are proud to call home. That is our ambition and our opportunity, and that is what this government is determined to do. Mr. Speaker, at moments like these, great turning points in our national story, the choices we make define the character of our nation. We can choose to say the task ahead is too great. We can choose to turn our face to the past and believe it can't be done. Or we can look forward with optimism and hope, and to believe in the enduring power of the British spirit. Yes. I choose to believe in Britain and that our best days lie ahead. Yes. And I do so because I am confident that we have the vision and the plan to use this moment to build a better Britain. For leaving the European Union presents us with a unique opportunity. It is this generation's chance to shape a brighter future for our country, a chance to step back and ask ourselves what kind of country we want to be. My answer is clear. I want the United Kingdom to emerge from this period of change stronger, fairer, more united and more outward-looking than ever before. I want us to be a secure, prosperous, tolerant country, a magnet for international talent, and a home to the pioneers and innovators who will shape the world ahead. I want us to be a truly global Britain, the best friend and neighbour to our European partners, but a country that reaches beyond the border of Europe too.
can I just apologise for having to interrupt the Prime Minister? Mr Boswell, calm yourself. You've got to try to learn to behave in a statesmanlike fashion. That's your long-term goal. It may be very long-term, but it should be a goal. And what I say to the House is this. You can study the record. I will want all colleagues to have the chance to question the Prime Minister. But this is a very important statement, and I think it is reasonable to expect that the Prime Minister gets a courteous hearing, and then every other colleague should get a courteous hearing. The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want us to be a truly global Britain, the best friend and neighbour to our European partners, but a country that reaches beyond the borders of Europe too. A country that goes out into the world to build relationships with old friends and new allies alike. And that is why I have set out a clear and ambitious plan for the negotiations ahead. It is a plan for a new, deep and special partnership between Britain and the European Union. A partnership of values, a partnership of interests, a partnership based on cooperation in areas such as security and economic affairs, and a partnership that works in the best interests of the United Kingdom, the European Union and the wider world. Because perhaps now more than ever, the world needs the liberal democratic values of Europe. Perhaps now more than ever, the world needs the liberal democratic values of Europe, values that the United Kingdom shares. And that is why, while we are leaving the institutions of the European Union, we are not leaving Europe. We will remain a close friend and ally. We will be a committed partner. We will play our part to ensure that Europe is able to project its values and defend itself from security threats. And we will do all that we can to help the European Union prosper and succeed. So, Mr. Speaker, in the letter that has been delivered to President Tusk today, copies of which I have placed in the library of the House, I have been clear that the deep and special partnership we seek is in the best interests of the United Kingdom and of the European Union too. I have been clear that we will work constructively in a spirit of sincere cooperation to bring this partnership into being. And I have been clear that we should seek to agree the terms of this future partnership alongside those of our withdrawal within the next 2 years. I am ambitious for Britain, and the objectives I have set out for these negotiations remain. We will deliver certainty wherever possible so that business, the public sector and everybody else has as much clarity as we can provide as we move through the process. It is why tomorrow we will publish a white paper confirming our plans to convert the acquis into British law so that everyone will know where they stand. And it's why I've been clear that the Government will put the final deal that is agreed between the UK and the EU to a vote in both Houses of Parliament before it comes into force. We will take control of our own laws and bring an end to the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in Britain. Leaving the European Union will mean that our laws will be made in Westminster, Edinburgh, Cardiff and Belfast, and those laws will be interpreted by judges not in Luxembourg but in courts across this country. We will strengthen the union of the 4 nations that comprise our United Kingdom. We will negotiate as one United Kingdom, taking account of the specific interests of every nation and region of the UK. And when it comes to the powers that we will take back from Europe, we will consult fully on which powers should reside in Westminster and which should be passed on to the devolved administrations. But, Mr. Speaker, no decisions currently taken by the devolved administrations will be removed from them. And it is the expectation of the Government that the devolved administrations in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will see a significant increase in their decision-making power as a result of this process. We want to maintain the common travel area with the Republic of Ireland. There should be no return to the borders of the past. We will control immigration so that we continue to attract the brightest and the best to work or study in Britain, but manage the process properly so that our immigration system serves the national interest. We seek to guarantee the rights of EU citizens who are already living in Britain and the rights of British nationals in other member states as early as we can. That is set out very clearly in the letter as an early priority for the talks ahead. We will ensure that workers' rights are fully protected and maintained. Indeed, under my leadership, not only will the government protect the rights of workers, but we will build on them. We will pursue a bold and ambitious free trade agreement with the European Union that allows for the freest possible trade in goods and services between Britain and the EU's member states, that gives British companies the maximum freedom to trade with and operate within European markets, and that lets European businesses do the same in Britain. Because European leaders have said many times that we cannot cherry-pick and remain members of the single market without accepting the 4 freedoms that are indivisible. We respect that position, and as accepting those freedoms is incompatible with the democratically expressed will of the British people, we will no longer be members of the single market. We are going to make sure that we can strike trade agreements with countries from outside the European Union too. Because important though our trade with the EU is and will remain, it is clear that the UK needs to increase significantly its trade with the fastest growing export markets in the world. We hope to continue to collaborate with our European partners in the areas of science, education, research and technology, so that the UK is one of the best places for science and innovation. We seek continued cooperation with our European partners in important areas such as crime, terrorism and foreign affairs. And it is our aim to deliver a smooth and orderly Brexit, reaching an agreement about our future partnership by the time the 2-year Article 50 process has concluded, then moving into a phased process of implementation in which Britain, the EU institutions and member states prepare for the new arrangements that will exist between us. Mr. Speaker, we understand that there will be consequences for the UK of leaving the EU. We know that we will lose influence. We know that we will lose influence over the rules that affect the European economy. We know that UK companies that trade with the EU will have to align with rules agreed by institutions of which we are no longer a part, just as we do in other overseas markets, and we accept that. However, we approach these talks constructively, respectfully, and in a spirit of sincere cooperation. For it is in the interests of both the United Kingdom and the European Union that we should use this process to deliver our objectives in a fair and orderly manner. It is in the interests of both the United Kingdom and the European Union that there should be as little disruption as possible. And it is the interests of both the United Kingdom and the European Union that Europe should remain strong, prosperous and capable of projecting its values in the world. At a time when the growth of global trade is slowing, and there are signs that protectionist instincts are on the rise in many parts of the world, Europe has a responsibility to stand up for free trade in the interests of all our citizens. With Europe's security more fragile today than at any time since the end of the Cold War, weakening our cooperation and failing to stand up for European values would be a costly mistake. Our vote to leave the EU was no rejection of the values that we share as fellow Europeans. As a European country, we will continue to play our part in promoting and supporting those values during the negotiations and once they are done. We will continue to be reliable partners, willing allies and close friends. We want to continue to buy goods and services from the EU and sell them ours. We want to trade with them as freely as possible and work with one another to make sure we are all safer, more secure and more prosperous through continued friendship. Indeed, in an increasingly unstable world, we must continue to forge the closest possible security cooperation to keep our people safe. We face the same global threats from terrorism and extremism. That message was only reinforced by the abhorrent attack on Westminster Bridge and this place last week. So there should be no reason why we should not agree a new deep and special partnership between the UK and the EU that works for us all. Mr. Speaker, I know that this is a day of celebration for some and disappointment for others. The referendum last June was divisive at times. Not everyone shared the same point of view or voted the same way. The arguments on both sides were passionate. But, Mr. Speaker, when I sit around the negotiating table in the months ahead, I will represent every person in the United Kingdom, young and old, rich and poor, city, town, country, and all the villages and hamlets in between. And yes, those EU nationals who have made this country their home. And it is my fierce determination to get the right deal for every single person in this country. For as we face the opportunities ahead of us on this momentous journey, our shared values, interests and ambitions can and must bring us together. We all want to see a Britain that is stronger than it is today. We all want a country that is fairer so that everyone has the chance to succeed. We all want a nation that is safe and secure for our children and grandchildren. We all want to live in a truly global Britain that gets out and builds relationships with old friends and new allies around the world. These are the ambitions of this government's plan for Britain, ambitions that unite us so that we are no longer defined by the vote we cast, but by our determination to make a success of the result. We are one great union of people and nations with a proud history and a bright future. And now that the decision to leave has been made and the process is underway, it is time to come together. For this great national moment needs a great national effort, an effort to shape a stronger future for Britain. So let us do so together. Let us come together and work together. Let us together choose to believe in Britain with optimism and hope. For if we do, we can make the most of the opportunities ahead. We can together make a success of this moment. And we can together build a stronger, fairer, better Britain. A Britain our children and grandchildren are proud to call home. I commend this statement to the House.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the Prime Minister for an advanced copy of her statement. Today we embark on the country's most important negotiations in modern times. The British people made the decision to leave the European Union, and Labour respects that decision. The next steps along this journey are the most crucial. And if the Prime Minister is to unite the country, as she says she aims to do, the government needs to listen, consult and represent the whole country, not just the hardline Tory ideologues on her own benches. Britain is going to change as a result of leaving the European Union. The question is how. There are Conservatives who want to use Brexit to turn this country into a low-wage tax haven. Labour is determined to invest in a high-skill, high-tech, high-wage future, to rebuild and transform Britain so that no one and no community is left behind. Mr. Speaker, the direction the Prime Minister is threatening to take this country in is both reckless and damaging. And Labour will not give this government a free hand to use Brexit to attack rights, protections and cut services, or create a tax dodger's paradise. So let me be clear, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister says that no deal is better than a bad deal. But the reality is, no deal is a bad deal. Less than a year ago, the Treasury estimated that leaving the European Union on World Trade Organization terms would lead to a 7.5% fall in our GDP and 45 billion loss of tax receipts. Has the Treasury updated those figures, or do they still stand? If updated, can they be published? If not, what deal could be worse than those consequences of no deal? It would be a national failure of historic proportions if the Prime Minister comes back from Brussels without having secured protection for jobs and living standards. So we will use every parliamentary opportunity to ensure this government is held to account at every stage of the negotiations. Mr. Speaker, We all have an interest in ensuring the Prime Minister gets the best deal for this country. To safeguard jobs, living standards, we do need full access to the single market. The Secretary of State for exiting the EU seems to agree on this. He stated in this House on the 24th of January, the government plan is, and I quote, a comprehensive free trade agreement and a comprehensive customs agreement that will deliver the exact same benefits as we have. So that is what they pledged. So will the Prime Minister confirm today that she intends to deliver a trade and customs agreement with the exact same benefits? The same goes for protecting workers' rights and environmental standards, protecting Britain's nations and regions, protecting Britain's financial sector and services, and making sure there is no return to a hard border in Northern Ireland. And when, Mr. Speaker, does she expect to be able to guarantee the rights of all those EU nationals who live, work and make such a massive and welcome contribution to this country? And for those British nationals who live in all parts of the European Union, including guaranteeing that their UK pensions will not be frozen post-Brexit. Mr. Speaker, Brexit would be a huge task for any government, yet so far they seem utterly complacent about the scale of the task ahead. The government ministers can't make up their minds about the real objective. The Foreign Secretary, he's here today, said in October, our policy is having our cake and eating it. How apposite from the Foreign Secretary. Today, the Chancellor on BBC Radio 4 said, we can't have our cake and eat it. Maybe they should get together and talk about it. These, at one level, Mr. Speaker, might seem like flippant exchanges from ministers, but they do reflect serious differences about Britain's negotiating aims. The government must speak with a united voice. However, the Foreign Secretary is the same man who promised our National Health Service £350 million a week once we left the EU. Now he believes that leaving the EU without a deal would be perfectly okay. It would not be perfectly okay. It would damage our economy and people's living standards. Will the Prime Minister confirm that she rejects such complacency? Labour has set out our test for this government's Brexit negotiations. And we will use all means possible to make sure we hold this government to their word on full access to the single market, on protecting Britain from being dragged into a race to the bottom, and ensuring our future relationship with the European Union is strong and cooperative, a relationship where we can work together to bring prosperity and peace to our continent. If the Prime Minister can deliver a deal that meets our tests, that will be fine. We'll back her. More than ever, Britain needs a government that will deliver for the whole country, not just the few. And that is the ultimate test of the Brexit deal that the Prime Minister must now secure.
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm grateful to the Right Honourable Gentleman for, when he got to his feet, saying that the Labour Party respected the outcome of the referendum and the process that is now underway. He said the next steps are the most crucial, the most important, and of course we now enter that formal process of negotiation. It does seem, however, that the message that he's said today hasn't got through to the whole of his front bench. I understand that this morning, as the Cabinet met to approve our course, his Shadow International Trade Secretary tweeted a photo of me signing the A50 letter and claiming I was signing away our country's future. So I'm afraid that's what we see from Labour all too often, talking down Britain, desperate for the negotiations to fail, and out of touch with ordinary working people. Now, he's asked me, he's referred to the tests, which I'll come on to. He asked me specifically about EU nationals. I have expressly referred to this in the letter to President Tusk and made it clear that I would hope that we could deal with this issue of EU nationals here and UK nationals in other member states at as early as possible a stage in the negotiations. As I've said in this House before, I believe there is goodwill on both sides to do that. Now, he mentioned the Labour Party's tests which they've set out for the negotiations. And I've been looking at those tests because actually there are principles that the government has time and time again said we're determined to meet. So he asks, will the final deal ensure a strong and collaborative future relationship with the EU? Yes. And in my letter to President Tusk, that's exactly what I set out our intentions to be. Will it deliver the same benefits we currently have as members of the Single Markets and Customs Union? We've been clear that we want to get the best possible deal and free and frictionless trade. Will the deal protect national security and our capacity to tackle cross-border crime? Yes. Will the deal deliver for all regions and nations of the UK? We've been very clear that we're taking all nations and regions into account, as I say in the letter to President Tusk. And as I've said earlier in answer to questions in PMQs, we expect that as powers are repatriated, the devolved administrations will see a significant increase in their decision-making. His fifth test was, will the deal defend rights and protections and prevent a race to the bottom? We've been very clear that workers' rights will be protected. It's not something that's up for negotiations under this government, and he should perhaps listen to his own Mayor of London, who has said, to give credit to the government, I don't think they want to weaken workers' rights. There's been some anxiety. I've seen no evidence from the conversations I've had with senior members of the government that that's their aspiration or their intention or something they want to do. But there is a sixth test that the Labour Party has set out, which I don't think the right honourable gentleman specifically mentioned. And perhaps that's because of the confusion in the Labour Party. Because the sixth test is, will the deal ensure fair management of migration? And what we see on that is a confused picture from the Labour Party. The Shadow Home Secretary says freedom of movement is a worker's right. And the right honourable gentleman himself said the following.
For the Reuters live service. This is the primary audio circuit.
So here it is, 6 pages. The notification from Prime Minister Theresa May triggering Article 50 and formally starting the negotiations of the United Kingdom's withdrawal from the European Union. There is no reason to pretend that this is a happy day, neither in Brussels nor in London. After all, most Europeans, including almost half the British voters, wish that we would stay together, not drift apart. As for me, I will not pretend that that I'm happy today. But paradoxically, there is also something positive in Brexit. Brexit has made us, the community of 27, more determined and more united than before. I am fully confident of this, especially after the Rome Declaration, and today I can say that we will remain determined and united also in the future, also during the difficult negotiations ahead. This means that both I and the Commission have a strong mandate to protect the interests of the 27. There is nothing to win in this process, and I'm talking about both sides. In essence, this is about damage control. Our goal is clear: to minimize the costs for the EU citizens, businesses and member states. We will do everything in our power, and we have all the tools to achieve this goal. And what we should stress today is that, as for now, nothing has changed. Until the United Kingdom leaves the European Union, EU law will continue to apply to and within the UK. Finally, I would like to say that we have just released an official statement by the European Council in which leaders stress that we will act as one and start negotiations by focusing on all key arrangements for an orderly withdrawal. On Friday, I will share a proposal of the negotiating guidelines with the Member States to be adopted by the European Council on the 29th of April. I will refer to this and I will comment our proposals on Friday during our press conference with Prime Minister Joseph Muscat in Malta. And what can I add to this? We already miss you. Thank you and goodbye.
Security.